Well, hello everyone. How are you all doing? It's your boy Akisno here, and today we are gonna cover a very big and very important topic. It's OOPS, the concept of object-oriented programming, which involves four aspects in particular: encapsulation, inheritance, abstraction, and polymorphism. Hope you guys have covered them by your own self. I won't be digging deep into the concept itself or the syntax or the semantics part, but I would be picking up the problems related to it, and we're gonna solve them. I'm gonna solve them, but we're gonna learn it together, like how things work. And yeah, let's get on with it. Do not. There's no need to. I've seen people who panic about this hoops concept, but there's nothing to be panicking about. But it's just you need to be cleared with the concepts. Practical knowledge is really important. Logging up the theory won't get us long, and after several practical knowledge, some practical knowledge, we would be good to go. And of course, some theoretical knowledge and theoretical question solving like these ones would also help in clearing your concepts and doubts. So without further ado, let's get on with it. Um, Hope my screen is visible. Just 1 second. Okay, fine. So, for the first question, what is true about object oriented programming? Everything. Okay. Mm, True about object oriented programming. Polymorphism is a phenomenon which allows you to have many classes of same name. No. Polymorphism involves basically method overloading and method overriding. I hope you are aware about these concepts. Should I just go deep into it? So overloading is basically when a method is written in a different way within a same class itself. So, for example, there could be a ride method. Methods are basically some type of verb, some type of action which is being performed. That is why I've chosen the ride as a concept. So in ride, there could be some property which is passed to the method. Okay, but then again, we can write the ride function with multiple properties. So that would be a different method signature, and that's how overloading could be achieved. That means a same type of functionality but with few enhancement and few more changes can be used just by passing different parameters and more number of parameters. Overriding is it comes in the picture when we inherit the properties from a different class, from a parent class, or you can say super class, and then we make some changes or it doesn't have to be exact. Even that we change the attribute itself, we can keep the attribute similar to the last one, but still, because it's the latest one, it is invoked in the base or the child class. So that is the one which is preferred for invocation or for execution. So that's when it is said that the method has been overridden. Last concept was when some properties or the method signatures change within the same class, then overloading within a different class which is being inherited, it's overriding. So it has nothing to do with how many classes of the same name are there. It has nothing to do with this. So this is a wrong option. A relation between a superclass and its subclass is known as fraternity. No, it's called inheritance. A class is like a blueprint used to construct objects. That is definitely true. That could be considered as the definition of the class itself. Like a recipe to create food, a particular type of meal. So a class may exist without its objects, while objects cannot exist without their class. Okay, so there are two options correct. This also must be correct. A class may exist without that objects. Why? Okay, so the whole concept of class comes into picture like when we just have a blueprint. Okay, just as mentioned in the last term, we have the blueprint, we have the recipe to build a actual meal, but it's fine if we do not build a meal or if we do not cook. So that class could, that blueprint, that recipe could still exist, but to have a meal we must have a certain set of guidelines or a recipe which we might have followed to make that thing to be edible or to have some substance to it. That means the objects cannot just exist out of nowhere. We have to have some form of blueprint. So this is absolutely correct statement. A class may exist without its object, while the object cannot exist without their class. What is true about object-oriented programming? There are like 24 questions. There are like 24 questions in this one. So to maintain some focus along with it, along through it all. And yeah, you can just skip a part of the video or pause it and watch later if it is like a really long one. I hope I should be able to contain it within an hour. What is true about object-oriented programming? A part of a class designed to build new object is called a constructor. Mhm. Yeah, looks good. Encapsulation is so constructor is called either by default or you can have your own constructor defined within this syntax. Okay, so it will be something like this, which you can write on your own. Otherwise, the default one just to build an object is created by Python. Okay, encapsulation is a phenomenon which allows you to hide certain class traits from the outer world. Yep, this looks correct. Let me read the other ones as well. A superclass of class is located below in the class in the hierarchy. No, super is at the top, while sub or child is at the bottom. Fine. This is wrong. All objects of the same class have exactly the same set of attributes. No. So when we create a meal from a recipe, for example, we are creating a cake. So all the properties which are supposed to be there are still there. But what if we add just a cherry on top of a cake, okay, on a particular cake, but the other cakes just have the base, which was part of the recipe, which was mentioned in the recipe. So this is allowed, right? We can have so this is something in this case as well. We can add a particular attribute to a object created from a class by just writing, like for example, x is equal to class is there. We created an object from it, but then again we can have some property like x dot is cherry, and we can make it as true. So this property dot is cherry would be available within x itself and not in some other object which is created like this. So y doesn't have is cherry property inside it. So all objects of the same class have exactly the same set of attributes. That is not true. So this looks good. Encapsulation is a phenomenon which allows you to hide certain class states from the outer world. This is absolutely true. What is the expected behavior of the following code? Um, let's see. Uh, Object 1, object 2. We have given these two strings respectively, which would be passed over here. So tomato plus soup. Tomato soup. This is what this one looks like, and this one will look like chicken soup. Their name property. But what they have asked is dot label. So the label would remain same for both of them. This is also soup. For this object, this is also soup, and for this object as well, the label property would still be soup. Fine, because it's a class variable. If they have defined something like this over here, then the things would be different. Okay. but because there's no label inside the constructor itself or outside this class, so we would by default pick the class variable, which is label is equal to soup. So both the values are same. This comes out to be true. What is the expected behavior of the following code? I can barely fit the entire content. Hope it is still visible. Mm, So class package spam is equal to nothing. It's no string. Okay, and love package capacitor package transistor that is passed over here, and then dot spam. Okay, so they're trying to manipulate or change the um, class variable plus equal to content. Okay, to dot spam. Fine. So when the first object is created, the package dot spam becomes capacitors, capacitors, and then colon. Fine, because capacitor is passed, it gets concatenated to the class variable and becomes capacitors colon. But when the transistors are passed inside the package, I mean, when the next object is created, so this class variable gets modified to or gets concatenated to transistors colon. Fine, and that's the modified class variable value. So even if we have printed envelope one dot spam, still it would have shown this value because that's the class variable and it it is what which is reflected the same across all the instances of that class. Fine. So it outputs this value because they are trying to print it. Looks good. Assuming the following code has been executed successfully, indicate the expressions which evaluate to true and don't raise any exceptions. Okay, true and don't raise any exception. Let's see. Mhm. We are creating an object passing value 1, fine, and then they have called dispose function which would remove that value. Okay. Stamps in collection dot underscore underscore date underscore underscore. Uh, Fine. Mhm. Okay. How many options are correct? There are two answers which are correct. Okay. So collection dot underscore underscore date. This is basically uh, a dictionary, which is a property of the objects as well and also of the class. But that works differently for both of them. I mean, if we call binder dot dict, which I believe which we have bottom of the stage, then we would look into it. But for the class dict, it would have its properties and the methods inside. I mean, this value would be there. Stamps value would be there because it's a class variable, and similarly, dispose function would be available inside it as well. So, and there are respective properties which I mean the key value pairs are available when we call this thing. So yeah, stamps is definitely there in this property. So we would go with this. This is correct. A length of binder, I mean the object dot dict and the class name dot dict won't be equal. I mean it's hard. It's really rare if it comes out to be equal. because only a very few values or very few properties are present inside the object, while the class itself contains lots of stuff, because it's a blueprint, right? And this is um, just something which is derived from the class. So it happens to be, you can just call this value on your console to see what are the values which it contains. So this is very unlikely that these comes to be equal. So I believe true is what we are looking for. Yeah, the value is to be true. So I believe this is also correct, that their values are not same. Stuff in binder.date, that is incorrect because they have deleted it. Fine. Length of binder is greater than 0. No. Only, okay, yeah. So in this object dot dict, it won't be containing the methods of the class. Even if you see this dispose is there, so this won't be available inside the dict dictionary of the object. Only it is available inside the classes dict property. Fine. Hope my voice is clear. So yeah, there's only one variable which was present inside it, and then even that was deleted uh, by calling dispose function. So again, it has value equal to 0, not greater than 0. This would also lead to false. It has value equal to 0. Fine. Assuming that the following code has been executed successfully, indicate the expressions which evaluate to true, and don't raise any exceptions. Mhm. Fine. Again, we need to see which values comes out to be true and don't raise any exception. Fine. Hmm. Object is equal to class. Hmm. Fine. Class variable, instance variable, and a method. This dict property in class.dict. Okay, so even this is true. I mean, if you just run this property on your console, you would get to know that this dictionary does have dict as a key inside it. So this comes out to be true. You have to like have some practical knowledge to know this thing, or just learn it by heart if you are into it. So yeah, this comes out to be true. Um, object dot dict method not equal to none. So I told that the object created from the class do not have mm, any details of the methods of the class. So this is not true. I mean, this would, even if you, I believe this would raise an error or an exception if you try to access it, because this key does not exist in the dictionary of the object itself. But even if it does, it won't be having any value. So this is absolutely wrong. Class does have the method details, and that won't be equal to none because something would be there at the respective place. This looks to be correct. I believe two are the right answers, so the last would be wrong, but let's look into it. Okay, so last is again the very highly unlikely position that the values of object.dict and the class.dict would be equal. Um, because these two are different things which I have been telling for like 10 minutes or so. So hope this is clear. Given the code below, indicate the code lines which correctly increment the underscore element variable by one. Hmm. Okay, we need to increment this variable by one. I mean, which of these statement could do that? Fine. We created an object. Things are there. Okay, so these things would be executing outside the class. It's not that it's part of a action function or something. Fine. Okay, you're gonna learn a different thing. Method resolution order. Name mangling. Yeah, that's the name. Okay. So when we create any private value inside a method or it's present inside the class as a class variable, then in order to access it, you need to provide underscore class name and then double underscore the private variable name. Okay, that is how you would be able to access it outside the class. So let's say um, we should be able to this doesn't work because you see there are two underscore at the start. There's no underscore over here, so this syntax won't work. It's not that we can mention the object name. The syntax doesn't go like underscore object name underscore private variable. No, so this would again be wrong. But we can achieve the same by using these two ways. By using class name dot same syntax or object name dot same syntax, and plus equal to once is just basic increment operator. Look, this is clear. This thing is known as name mangling, just a way to access so-called private variables by using this syntax. Mhm. Given the code below, indicate the code line which correctly invokes the underscore action method. Mhm. We need to do what? Indicate the code line which correctly invokes the action method. Okay, fine. This is okay. They have made it as private because there are two underscore at the start. Hmm. Okay, there is just one option which is correct. Okay, this won't work. You I hope remember the syntax which I showed earlier to access private stuff. Class name underscore class name double underscore private value. Hmm. This won't work because you see this is underscore object name. Okay, so the question is whether is it this one or this one. Hmm. Mhm. I'm actually not sure about this one, but I'm gonna go with this because let's just say, I mean, we have to know the class name. Call this private variable. It's one of these two guys. I'm gonna go with D as a guess, but I'm gonna cross check this later and mention it in the comment section or something if it is wrong. Otherwise, just go with D. Mm. Mm. Okay. Given the class below, indicate a method which will currently provide the value of rank field. Okay. So we created a basic object. The constructor would be called, and we want to call, I mean, we want to uh, create a method would which would provide, or that means I believe return the rack field. Yeah. So the options contain return itself. Mm, they have to be, the option has to be So self is required inside the class definition. So this won't be correct. I mean, the methods inside the class definition should have self as the first parameter. Yeah. So this would also be incorrect. So first line of these two are fine, but then again, this rack is a property or a variable or an object property, so it would be accessed as self dot rack, not just as the rack by default directly. Fine. First one was correct. This was wrong. Given the class below, I'm actually not happy about not being able to solve this one, but it happens. Mm, I'm still gonna guess this one, last one. Fine. Given the class below, complete the print method body in a way that will ensure that the get method is properly invoked. Okay. Complete the print. This one needs to be completed. In a way that it will ensure get method is properly invoked. Fine. Okay. Okay. Hmm. Normal object creation. Focus. Normal object creation. Object dot print is called. And we need to call the get function. Object is properly invoked. Get method doesn't have any property needs that needs to be passed, so we need to keep it blank. Mm, okay. There are two options which are correct. Okay. Mm, print get. No. So like I told earlier, the method needs to be called using self dot get. So this is wrong. Or the class name dot get would also work. There's no need to pass self over here. I mean, that part is not required. Mm. So what self actually is does is it's just a kind of a representation of the object which we just created. So mm, we created stuff is equal to storage. So this part is basically what creates an object, and this is a reference to an object. Find just a reference variable to an object, and through that reference variable we are able to access the object itself, and then we crawl the properties inside it. To properties, by properties I mean some state or a behavior. Behavior is what we say for methods. State is basically the variables or the values. So that's what it does. And then self basically like have that identity or the details of the object, of the particular object, because an object could have its own set of details or some own uniqueness, so that needs to be reserved, and that's what self um, maintains. So that, I mean, that's one of the things which self helps in. Okay, so self dot track the values of that particular object would be initialized to one when we just created that object. So it goes that way. So yeah, self dot get is how you would be accessing the value, the method get, and then print it directly inside print function. Other ways by just calling the class name itself. So forget about what the details are, and just call the class directly. Okay, now even I'm confused in this one as well, because like I said, the properties or the details are mentioned inside itself, but if we just call the class name dot get directly, it won't be having those details. I mean, that self needs to be there somewhere. Okay. So I'm gonna go with according to the explanation which I just provided, and not keeping on guessing things. I would go with this one, not with this one. So that detail needs to be passed if we are just accessing the get function by the class name. Fine. This also needs to be checked a bit by me. Okay. The built-in class property called basis is hmm, it's 30 minutes already. Crap. The built-in class property called basis is okay. So basis contains the it's basically a tuple which contains the details of the superclasses of that. I mean, it's a property of it's a class property like it's mentioned. So the superclasses details are present, but more importantly, the direct superclass details are what are available inside base property of a class. So it's a tuple which has the superclasses property, but not just all the superclasses. I mean, there's a whole hierarchy which could go all the way to the default or the base one. I mean, the ultimate class. I believe there's a name for that as well. Uh, let's say it's a base class. So all the way to the top of the hierarchy is not covered, just the direct one to that. I mean, just the parent of that class, not the grandparent or grand. So that part is clear. A dictionary, no. A string, no. A variable, no. A tuple, which contains information about the direct superclasses of the class. Fine. Okay, so now I'm trying to compress the question and answer. Okay. So what it was asking for is, I mean, the question is not available, but I will tell you directly. What it's asking for is the output of this whole functionality. We have created an object. Let me change the color. We have created an old object and we are trying to get the values of these. Okay. Floor is called get tokens. This. Okay. Let's pick the details and we would understand accordingly. Has attr is basically has attributes. So this object, does this object has attribute this or not? If it has, then it would be given as true. If it doesn't, then it would be given as false. So we can mention the object name or the direct class itself to see if the property is present or not. Okay. So holder is a floor object of floor, and it does it have the token inside it. So the floor is inheriting the properties of seal. So yeah, I believe it is true. I mean, when we create a holder of object floor, it had the properties or of object of a class seal. If we create an object holder of class floor, it would have the properties of class seal inside it, which eventually have this token inside it as a class variable. So this is supposed to this I believe is true. And for the other ones, does this class have set token? So no. See, in class seal, which is basically like a parent, if you say it this way, if you relate it to floor. So this parent doesn't have the details of set token, which is basically present inside its child class. So those details won't be visible or available to be in the parent function or parent class. So yeah, this is false. True and false. I believe it should be first one. Okay, going on to the next one. Class economy. Okay, so again we need to see the output of this one. So here I'm gonna just try to complete the syntax. So here it just has business, and then I believe it contained. So true and false are placed on the same line. That means print and then end is equal to this. By default, end has backward slash in. But then again, you are going through this oops concept, so I believe you are clear about what the print has as its syntax. And or I believe separation is also there. No, maybe. So yeah, and has colon inside it, so there's no new line thing. That was what the part was available over here. Mm, okay, we have created two object of economy. Business A is a object of business, which is a child class of economy. B is basically another reference for business A. When we just, I mean, like I told, these all four are just a naming convention or just a reference variable for the actual object which is created this way. So we can change it, rename it, or I mean, we can just this is just a naming convention for or a name for pointing out to that object itself. So we can so these two are basically same thing. There's not a copy which is created. It's just the same thing, and two things are pointing towards it: business B and business A. Fine. So let's see the options print is instance. I mean, let's see what needs to be done. Is instance. Okay. So this is instance, like the name tells in itself, is this variable an instance of economy class. Business A instance of economy class. Okay. No. See, when you create a business object, it does have the attributes of economic class, but that doesn't mean that it becomes an instance by itself. Let me focus. Okay, so let's see what happened here. When we say business A or BSN us and A, we have created an object. BSN A is an object of business class. Looks good, but okay. So it's an object of business class which inherits the property of economy. So in that sense we can say that this comes out to be true because the properties are the details of the above class or the parent class are available inside business itself. So this comes out to be true. Let's see for the second one. Econ A is equal to economy. Mm, uh, is equal to economy. So it's an object of class economy and fine, and which has no clue about business. I mean, the parent doesn't know uh, what are its childs. I mean, which child are inheriting the properties of him and which child are not. I mean, let's say you can understand it as super. So super doesn't know if who are the subclasses, who are its subclasses. That is, who are inheriting the properties of itself, of super. Okay, so this would come out to be false because economy doesn't have the properties of business class or any clue about it. So this would come out to be false. Last one was true. True and false is false. So first properties is clear that false is there. Second is BSN B is BSN A, which I told is true because because that's what was the syntax present over here. Yeah, see it this way. And they both are pointing to the same object. So is part is true. Is just mean or they the same thing. So yeah, econ A and econ B are different thing because although they are objects of same class, they are independent of each other and they are pointing to a different. They are just a different cake. If we compare it to that analogy which I talked about earlier, the cake one. Although the recipe is same and the cakes are created, but they are different cakes which are created. So these two are different things. Fine. This would be false then, and true and false or have in between. That means true, false, and true. This should be the answer. Given the code below, which of the expression will evaluate to true? Let's see the code. Then we have the value. Could I just move the value over here? Yes, I can. So everything can be seen over here. Fine. Given the code below, which of the expressions will evaluate to true? Mhm. Fine. We have three classes. Bottom is inheriting from middle, and middle is inheriting from top. So the hierarchy is in the same order as the class are mentioned. Short is an object created from for bottom. Tall is for top. Average is for middle. I can just mention it quickly as well. Tall. Okay. We are trying to access short dot value. Short. Okay. Okay. So the value property is available because bottom has all the details of middle, middle has all the details of top. So that means all the values over here would be available inside bottom. But the latest one is the one which is being residing inside this dot value property because of the thing which I talked about in the very first question, polymorphism. Um, that can be considered over here. So the latest value is the thing which would override the the ancient one. So this is correct. Short dot value would have to as its value. Tall dot said. Okay, and we are trying to return self dot value. Okay, so see, tall is an object of top class. Okay, so it has no clue about who is gonna inherit him, or because he's clear about itself, it doesn't need any class over here, and it's just a super class in itself. I mean, it has all it takes to provide to perform some functionality. So when we create an object of its class and we called the method of it, it would just return the value which is available inside it, which is 3. So this one would be incorrect. Average dot value is equal to 2. Average is a middle one, and we are trying to get the value which is equal to 2. This looks correct. Is instance average comma bottom. Okay, so average is a here's a revision of what I just told you like few seconds ago. Average is a object of middle class which has no clue about who are the classes who are gonna inherit him. He is focused on top, that's the class he it needs to inherit from. So see when we see if it is an instance of bottom, it's definitely not, because of the same explanation which I just gave. So, and it has nothing to do with bottom. It's not an instance of it. It doesn't have any property from it. Cool. Given the code below, which of the following expression will evaluate to true? Bollocks. You see the hard work I do to arrange this piece of code. Drag here, drag that. Okay. Given the code below, which of the following expression will evaluate to true? We have this object of delta. Okay, you're gonna understand a new concept over here. Not a new concept, oh, but how this thing works when we try to inherit multiple classes. So, like in the last case, the hierarchy is followed, and the latest one is covered when it comes to picking the value. So we can say it goes like bottom to top, and in case there are multiple classes present inside the class, then it goes from left to right. That means the left one is, I mean, if a property is available, if a method is available in the left one, then that would be executed, and if it's not, then we would pick the right class. And similarly, the other right, if it is not available over here either. Fine. So let's see through this example, and it would be more clear. B is equal to delta. Cool. Gamma dot of beta. Okay. So, and gamma and beta have all the properties of alpha. So delta contains everything just by inheriting two classes details. Just okay. So and B is equal to beta. Okay. B is for here and D is for here. Cool. Let's see the options then. Alpha in delta dot basis. Remember the basis thing? I hope you do. Um, it's a tuple which contains the details of superclass. Details is the correct term. Let's just say info. Okay. So alpha in delta dot basis. Delta have gamma and beta as its direct superclass. See, it's mentioned over here, and they have alpha is their diet superclass, but delta doesn't have uh, ga- um, gamma and as alpha as delta doesn't have alpha as its diet superclass, so alpha won't be present in delta dot basis. D dot value equals alpha. D is a property of delta dot value. Okay, all the values are present inside it because of inheritance. So let's see the latest one. If there is a variable like value present over here, then it would have been picked because gamma is at the left, but it doesn't it isn't present over here, so we are chilled in that fashion. uh, Value is equal to beta. Okay, is the thing which would be available here and not alpha, so this would also be wrong because first delta would cover gamma and beta. Okay, so um, gamma doesn't have value property in itself, and beta has beta as its value. So um, alpha won't be the answer of this because this is the latest one. Is instance d comma beta. um, so yeah, d is an instance of beta like we discussed earlier. If the details or the properties of a superclass are available inside it, then that instance property does become true. So d, despite of just being an instance of delta, automatically becomes an instance of gamma and beta as well, just by inheriting the properties. And d dot say is equal to caps lock or block. Let's just stick with caps lock values of beta. Okay, so d dot say, let's try to run that function. Gamma comma beta. Gamma has that function say, which would run self dot value dot upper, and then value it's not gonna find in itself, so it's gonna check with beta. Beta does have the value inside it, and that's what would be converted to upper, and that's how it would become beta, and that's what it would be returned. Cool. So this is also correct option. Let's go on to the next one. Given the code below, which of the following expression will evaluate to true? I should have rearranged it this way, but it's fine. Evaluate to true. So true needs to be there. D, B. I'm not gonna speak a lot in this way. I'll let you guys understand what's going on over here. Hmm? Hmm. Mhm. 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 Hope that was clear, but I'm gonna just quickly go through it again. is instance d comma alpha. D is an instance of delta, which inherits property of beta and gamma, which inherits property of alpha. That means D automatically becomes an instance of all these classes. True. B is D. What? B is an object of delta and D is an object of B is an object of beta and D is an object of delta. They are definitely not pointing to a same type of object in any universe. Okay, so gamma, that is correct, that is incorrect. Gamma in delta dot underscore underscore basis underscore underscore. Okay, delta has beta and gamma at its as its classes who it's inheriting it from. Okay, so and they are direct super classes as well. So gamma is definitely present over here. So this would come out to be true. And when we execute d dot say, that means it would pick the method like I told from left to right because it is present. This say are present in both the classes it's inheriting from. Left one would be picked and it would return beta, not gamma, which it would have if the property or if the rule through which Python would have been created goes from right to left. That's not the case, it goes from left to right. That means beta would be returned, which is not equal to gamma. That means that is the answer. Fine. Mhm. It's over. No, it's not. Which of the following classes has have valid constructors? Class, but let's see how much the time is on. 1 hour. It's almost 1 hour. If you are if you are there with me, then it's good. I mean, it's not a live class, so I don't have any idea who's there, who's not. Let's go on with it. Which of the following classes have valid constructor? Ooh. Let's see. Okay, fourth one is definitely incorrect because a constructor can never have a return value. It cannot return anything. It is not supposed to do that. Correct. Okay, let's pick. Okay, a constructor always have a one property. It can be named differently. That's just a trick thing or this is a simple thing. I mean, it can be named as cell L underscore. All these things are allowed. So as a first name, but that default one is what is used for pointing that object, like I told earlier. So the first property is reserved, and it has to be there. And just if in case it was like cell, which was available over here, then we would have called it as cell dot attribute. Okay, but that one property needs to be there, and which is not available over here. So this is wrong. This loop absolutely pristine, beautifully done. Self is there, everything is fine. And this is also allowed. You can just create a constructor and erase an arithmetic error inside it. There's nothing wrong with that. Cool. Two answers would be correct. Yep. Which of the following snippets output true to be the screen? Okay. Let's see the first two. True to the screen. Okay. I need to go to washroom. I will be back ASAP. Okay. There's no pause thing inside it. I either have to edit the thing or uh, there's no pause optional inside the thing which I'm using to record this video. I will be back in a second. Okay. Not in a second. In a minute. Okay. Which of the following snippets output true to the screen? Mhm. Mhm. We have simply created an object which would which would run this constructor and print the value, which is which whose default value has been set to be true. So even if you would have sent something, it would have taken it over here, value is equal to something. But if it's not and is mentioned just like this without any value inside it, default value true would be picked and it would just print it. That is absolutely fine, and that's what we want on the screen. True to be printed. Let's go on to the second one. Class 8 def init self dot value is equal to true. Mhm. Mhm. Okay, so we created an object of class B which inherit all the value of A. First, this constructor would be created. Okay, value would be false, and that's what would be passed over here because it's calling the constructor of its superclass, and that's this is the syntax. Hope you are aware about it. Super dot call the constructor or call any method of the constructor for that matter. Uh, so and then this value is passed false. So the default one won't be picked, and this would become false, and it would print false. And that's not what we want on the screen. Let's see these two. One of these would be correct, and one of these would be wrong. Okay, this is the wrong syntax. It requires self or something at its start. This is wrong. This is correct. We can move to the next question. But let's see this one. B is equal to we have created an object of B. A is passed. The constructor would be created. No. See, in the last case, uh, in this case, a default constructor would be running, and it doesn't have that property of super inside it. It has no. It doesn't know about it. I mean, that's not how the constructor would be created. So that's a super constructor which executed the constructor of its parents class in the last section. That won't be happening over here. So it was just creating an object. No, this means okay. So I believe what happened is when it inherits the property of A, it gets this init function inside it, and that's what becomes the constructor of the B class because it doesn't have its constructor of its own. I should have skipped this one. No, this is important. So B is an object created for class B. B is supposed to be having a constructor inside it, either by default or a created one. When it's when it inherits the property of A, the constructor of A class would come happily over here and it would be executing it as a kind of a constructor of B, and it would print true. Okay. What is the expected behavior of the following snippet? Okay. We have class. Okay, let's create an object of class A, inherits all the value from team, and then we run show id. Fine. Show id is being run, and it would try to print get id, but like I told, the override this get id would override the get id of its parents class. So this is the one which would be executing if we call this. So that's cool. Return alpha. Alpha would be returned, and that's what would be printing this. That's how I understood it. Create an class, find, have the properties, run the show ID, print get ID. Get ID is this one would be picked because this has been overridden, or this is the bottommost uh, method which is given the most importance, and that's what would be returned alpha, and that would be printed. Fine. What is the expected output of the following code? Class aircraft def start self. Wow. Gee, this is a marathon. Marathon of programming, yeah. I mean, I'm going slowly and trying to give the explanation as well. If this type of question comes in exam or you give out any test like so, you can just go through them fast. You don't have to narrate it or anything. What is the expected output of the code? We have fleet, we have objects created of fixed wing and rotorcraft inside it. Those are picked one at a time, and the start function for each has been executed. First, for fixed wing. Fixed wing has aircraft and start function has value default. So that would be returned. Nothing fancy over here. Rotorcraft would be picked. Its start function would be executed. It has a start function of its own. Default spin should be the answer. Okay. Takeoff is not even mentioned anywhere. Just written for fun, I guess. Default spin. If you want an object to be able to represent its content as string, which you should equip its class with a method named underscore underscore string underscore underscore. That's just a syntax and a property you would get aware of if you do some more practical examples. Yeah. So just if you print an object, for example, if I created an object of class A, and if I just try to print the object, it by default it gives something like this, and 0 a 0 0 it's do something like this. OBJ. Um, what this thing is, I am not aware about of this. I cannot explain this terms, but that's what is printed by default. You can Google it if you are curious about it. What's printed by default? I believe it gives the memory location where this thing is stored. I'm not, like I said, I'm not aware. But if we override, I mean, if in the classes in class A, if we override it by mentioning that def underscore underscore str underscore underscore, and then we give print, I don't know, just uh, blah, then that would be printed if we call this. Okay. So this is how you can edit this thing. If you want to check if a Python file is either used as a module or run as a standalone program, you should check. Okay, so there's this property underscore underscore name which contains underscore underscore main if it is run as a standalone program, whereas if it is inherited by another a script or a file, then this property changes its name to the name of the uh, program file. हाँ the use or हाँ ठीक ठीक. Okay, so yeah, it's either when the script is run as a standalone file, then it remains as main, and if it is imported to another file and then it is used, then this property would change to the file name. Okay, or I believe the module name. So yeah, this needs to be what this is what needs to be checked. Given the class hierarchy presented below, indicate which of the following class declarations are legal. Okay, so we need to just focus on the things that they need to be from left to right, and the priority should be from bottom to top. These things need to be checked. If we have some syntax which goes against these laws or these rules, then it would be creating a problem. Let's pick the first two. Two of them are correct. Let's see the first two. Class bottom left comma right. Okay, we have seen something similar before. Class bottom inheriting values from left and right. Left being the most left would be given more priority than right, and these two would be picked. They too have top as their common parent class. There's no problem over here. Class bottom top comma right. Okay. So see, I believe this would create a problem because right has been derived from, or right is a base class or a child class of top, and over here we have top as being given, which has been given the priority. So this is the flow when it runs in bottom, top, and then right. But in if it has been given normally, then would have been right, and then top would be executed. I mean, this would be would have been flow of if we have just inherited them one at a time. Okay, so I believe this is wrong, because here it goes like top to right, but in actuality, right is being derived from top. Right is the one having top's property, and this needs to be the flow. The latest one is right. Okay, let's see the bottom two as well. Plus bottom top left. Again the same thing. Top left base class. Let's not use the term base class. Let's use class. So yeah, again creating a problem. Wrong. Bottom left and top. See, this is fine. Left to top, this is fine. Left to top, this is fine. Okay. Everything is reserved. Everything is the flow is proper. This needs to be correct one. What is the expected output of the following code? Come on, guys. Okay. Hmm. Object is equal to bottom. Bottom has right and left. The right would be picked. It's just a naming convention. Don't be like, okay, right is present over here and left is over there. No, it's just a name given to this class. Right and left. Right would be picked. Okay. And see, here we are trying to print this thing, print the name, print the object itself, and then this str method is what's executed. And they have overridden it in all the classes. So let's see which one would be picked. Left one, leftmost would be picked. There's no need to go to the parent of that. Just straight away underscore underscore str is present. Give me three, and I'm good to go. Okay. Okay. It wasn't a very challenging one. I mean, it was at sometimes. I was a bit confused in a couple of those, like maybe one and two of those. So hope you guys learned as well as much as I did. Hope my explanation made sense and it was very valuable for you. If they were, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel. It helps the channel to grow. It helps me to grow as well. Mm. And I would make sure I would contribute with some better and better quality of content going forward. Thank you guys for watching and take care. Bye bye.